Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. See that there's some people still joining us, so we're going to give them a minute or two here to join in. Nice sunny fall day here. Perfect day for a webinar. All right, maybe it's a nice day to be outside too, but we're all glad that you're joining us here today. And hopefully we got some really good content for you here today. Maybe everybody here leaves with something either they didn't know before or something they could take back to their own law firm and use starting today. Okay, well, it's a couple minutes after, and I think probably the majority of who is going to join us here at the beginning is in, so we'll just get started. And again, thank you everybody for joining us today. I feel like we have some really good content for you here. It is October, it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we like to do, certainly in October anyway, some of these educational webinars to try and keep people up to date. This one has a little bit of a twist with AI involved as well, because we've been seeing a lot of use of AI in some new and emerging cyber threats. So hopefully we're gonna let you in on all that stuff, and let's get going. So I'm, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Shagru. I'm CRO here at Pace Technical. I'm one of the partners, and I'm joined by Tyler Sanders, our CEO, and Rishwan Syed, our CTO. Say hello, guys.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right. So just jumping into it, I think a lot of people on this call, I see some familiar names that are either clients or that have attended recent webinars. But if you don't know us and we haven't had a conversation in a while, just super quick about Pace. In business now over 20 years. We're a managed IT company, also managed IT security, cloud services. We're actually, slide is out today, we're a little over 60 people now. We've been an ISO 9001 business for many years, really dedicated to process, procedure, quality improvement, and over 9 years now. We were just recertified again now last week as a great place to work here in Canada. And we're currently supporting over 65 law firms here in the GTA. So if we haven't had a conversation recently, we'd love to talk to you. If we have recently, welcome back. If you're a client, of course, as always, welcome.
It's actually our 10th year as Great Place to Work.
Okay, well, thank you.
As our recertification.
There we go. Stand corrected. 10 years. It's even better, right? So yeah, we like to do these educational webinars. Here's some of the most recent ones. You can see we did one actually last year at this time. Still a lot of relevant content if you want to go back, but hey, these are all accessible for anyone on our website. Go to pacetechnical.com, go to the media dropdown. Under resources, you'll see webinars, and you can access any of the previous webinars that we have done for free. So go ahead and have at that. Super quick housekeeping. Everybody's in listen only mode. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send out access to the recording to anybody attending here today or anyone that has signed up for the webinar today. You can ask questions at any time, use the Q&A button, or you can raise your hand, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So this is our agenda. Just a quick look at the threat landscape. We're going to talk about the rise of the use of AI in cyber threats. And then we're going to feel like we hear a lot of myths and a lot of misinformation out there related to cybersecurity. So we want to kind of debunk some of those. And then maybe some ways to safeguard your firm and some steps for creating a cyber smart team. And then finishing everything off with Q&A. So let's just jump into it. Certainly we want to start with a very quick poll question just to get a little bit of an idea. And if my Zoom cooperates with me here, oops, just trying to, there we go, launch this poll here for everybody. Just very quick, you know, how prepared do you feel? Very prepared, somewhat prepared, or hopefully not too many not prepared at all, but hey, it's a common answer as well. That kind of helpless feeling is, geez, what do we have in place? Maybe you're not totally sure what measures are in place to protect you right now, but we just kind of wanted to give a general idea of where we're at. And I don't want to spend too much time here, but just wanted to get a little bit of a baseline of the audience that we have today. So I guess the good news is that, you know, the majority here feel somewhat prepared. So that's like 70%. And it's a smaller percent, only about 20% are not at all, but, you know, not very many, only 12% were suggesting that they feel very prepared. So gives us a good baseline, and it's probably exactly where I thought that we would land, you know, somewhat that feeling of somewhat prepared, but then, hey, we're not 100% sure what we're doing or if we're that protected. So anyways, let's move
I
on
think
then.
also, Mike, understanding the fact that the cyber threats continue to evolve, and that's why we update our content for these webinars, and it changes every year. So feeling somewhat prepared is a little bit of not knowing the new threats and staying apprised of those.
Exactly. You know, cybersecurity is and has been always a moving target, always feeling like cyber criminals are one step ahead of us, and we're just constantly, the tools and remedies and things like that we use are just to catch up with what's going on there. So I bring this slide up pretty often in most of these cyber webinars. I mean, this is Robert Mueller, the former director of the FBI. He said this decades ago, that there's only two types of companies, those that have been hacked and those that will be. He saw the future. It's still happening. As I just said, cyber criminals seem to be one step ahead of us. They're very organized, in a lot of cases, very well funded. But yeah, we're constantly playing catch up. A lot of the new tools and processes that have come out is all the result of vulnerabilities that have been found that cyber criminals have discovered. Now, adding AI into things is just making them that much harder to catch and that much harder to keep up with. But I'll say this to everyone as well. There is no 100% defense against cyber crime. We can put in the tools and the process in place. Nothing is 100%. That's not, excuse me, not going to stop us from continuing to try and put in all the defenses that we can. We're not just going to throw in the towel and give up. And in most cases, the defenses and the tools and the process that we put in place are going to keep people safe. But everybody needs to know that there is no 100%. So having a quick look at the landscape really hasn't changed too much. You know, phishing is still prevalent, and, you know, over 50% of breaches that happen typically start with some sort of phishing attempt. So now the phishing tactics and how they're utilizing phishing and how they're continuing to trick people, that has evolved and changed over time and continues to change. Cyber criminals are getting better and better at it, but predominantly just that category of phishing is still one of the top things. And, you know, when people get phished, it leads to several other things, you know, business email compromise. We've either seen firsthand or we've heard of it's called by many names, the CEO, the CFO, hoodwink, or whatever it is, where someone has gotten access to a prominent figure's email account, or in many cases, they're just using spoofing to make it look like they've got access or they are a legitimate CEO, CFO that is going to one of the employees in the company asking them to do crazy things, wire ridiculous amounts of money, Now, that could be common practice in some, businesses and organizations. So, this is what cyber criminals prey on. They're watching, they're trying to understand how people do things, what type of transactions that they do, and trying to fly under the radar. But business email compromise is a big problem.
Usually in a law firm, it's going to be the partners, the managing partners. They'll be doing some research on your websites, social media, and kind of understanding who are the people in the firm that can authorize wire transfers and payments.
Exactly. Ransomware, another result of potential phishing or visiting the wrong web page, clicking on a download link that you shouldn't click on, leading to all kinds of problems. This whole ransomware thing hasn't gone away. And the whole basis of requiring, cyber awareness training, human error is still going to exist. And we're never going to get away. That's why we have to continue to try and stay on our toes and continue to try and train our people as to what are the threats, what they should and shouldn't do on a computer. And now, most recently, throwing AI into the mix here now is just making things a lot more complicated. So let's talk really quick about AI. I mean, hey, I don't know if anybody else on the call, but we have benefited greatly from AI. We use several of the tools, whether it's ChatGPT, Copilot. We use Copilot extensively right now. We're very, very big Microsoft Teams users. We use Microsoft Teams for the majority of meetings in our company and use Copilot to, record the meeting, to do a full transcript of the meeting of everything that was said by every individual, as well as a full summary of every meeting that we have internally, citing who said what, who said that they were going to do, what are the list of to-dos and who are supposed to do it at the end of every meeting, utilizing ChatGPT and Copilot to help us even with marketing, writing emails, helping with website content, social media content. So lots of great things happening with AI. However, there's also the dark side of it now too, where we're not the only ones leveraging AI. Cyber criminals are heavily leveraging AI. Here's just some of the ways that they're using it. Just as we're using it to potentially write content in emails, cyber criminals are as well. In the old days, especially for cyber criminals in other countries where English may or may not have been their first language, they had to try and put, emails together for phishing. And they were, 15, 20 years ago, they were pretty easy to spot, right? And then some other tools started coming in where they could use autocorrect, spell check, even grammar check these emails. Forget all that now. Now they can just go to AI and say, hey, write me an email about this subject. They even have their own tools. They don't use ChatGPT, or they have ways of leveraging ChatGPT to help them write convincing emails. Also, AI helping them generate malware code. Whereas before they used to need a code writer that understood, software engineering and whatnot. Not anymore. You just need to give it some instructions on what type of code that you want written, what the end result you want to be. Lots of tools available to them right now, and you do not have to be a software engineer to write malware code or malicious code anymore. Even the crazy idea that AI on a phone conversation can be taught to listen and learn keystrokes and try and pick up what keystrokes are being typed in to help guess, users' credentials, IDs, passwords, things like that. And then the last piece is related to deepfakes. So, and you may or may not have heard that term, but we're going to talk about that in just a minute here. But generally, AI is the basis of deepfakes. So let's look at some of the recent trends that we've been seeing. we just talked about using AI to help with phishing campaigns. So, you know, like I said, cyber criminals aren't using traditional ChatGPT and things like that, although they probably can. You know, just as a test, interesting enough, we went to ChatGPT and thought, wouldn't it be a interesting idea to just go to ChatGPT and do a live demo for you and have ChatGPT write a malicious email or a phishing type email. Well, when we asked, ChatGPT does have a conscience, and it basically gave us a message back saying that, sorry, you know, I can't do that for you. However, if you ask it in a certain way, it'll at least give you an example. And this is a copy of the example that it provided for us. And I will say, you could probably use something like this, or maybe not here, we don't have CVS Health, but we could have probably asked it to make us an example using Shoppers Drug Mart. And it might have written something similar for us. But on top of that, then they can also utilize AI to do research on an individual, check their social media platforms to find compelling information that they could use in an email, find out who their coworkers are, what is their position, their title, things like that. This is how they're leveraging AI in helping create those campaigns. I mentioned the word deepfake. So Tyler talked about this earlier. Sounds like an NFL football term, right? Where the quarterback, you know, tells a wide receiver, hey, go deep. Wait. No, don't go deep. Go short. Fake going deep and go short. Go only 10 yards and I'll throw you the ball. That's what a deepfake is, right?
What I thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It actually isn't. And full disclosure, I didn't know what a deepfake is until earlier this year, but it's been around for a while. So deepfakes are basically images, videos, and audio basically manipulated and generated using AI to make it look like a real person, or you can make it look like a completely unique person that doesn't even exist on Earth. It has that kind of technology. It's crazy. Some of the things they're using, scams, you know, hoaxes, pornography, election manipulation, social engineering. I mean, when you look at these videos and hear the audio and whatnot, like the audio is actually utilizing the real audio of a person, the images, the video is using real images, but AI is just extrapolating it and taking that base image and then allowing you to, you know, show movement, mouth movement, and things like that that the person may or may not have done and manipulate it. So now it can be used for, you know, illicit, illegal purposes. Also can be used for legitimate purposes too. I mean, it's probably been in use for quite a while now in the film and TV industry, in editing video and things like that. So definitely some legitimate purposes. I mean, I think the whole idea of animated video is probably based on this kind of technology as well. But let's
And
look
it's
at
not as just to interject there, Mike. People think that, you know, we think deepfake, what does it do? What does it not do? Essentially, it's just like putting somebody's face, their expressions on screen. And as the other human moves, that deepfake moves. A simplest example is the background that you see behind us. If I move left and right, the way that Zoom is blurring the background, it knows just to focus on me. You can't see the chair behind me. You can't see the pictures that are hanging behind me. That's all part of what that technology does. It recognizes the person and anything around it that it needs to change, it's changing it in real time.
right.
Earlier, the computer processing power, you know, you needed a heavy duty computer to do this. Now, with these laptops, with the newest generation of processors, you can do it on a home laptop. Cloud technology has taken even that a step further, where you do not need that processing power in your house. You just can get a Azure VM with a lot of GPU power, and essentially, you know, I can program it to replace my voice and my face with Tyler's, and any movement that I make, anything that I mimic, you will see Tyler's face. That's what deepfake technology is right now. The danger of it is that before it needed a lot of processing power that not everybody could afford. cloud technology just made it so much cheaper. You can just go rent a VM, get this to work for you, and it's literally that. Like, you don't even need your laptop to have that much power anymore.
Yeah. And I think, the biggest threat with it is it looks absolutely real, like it, and very, very hard to spot. So if you were to Google deepfake, you'll see, geez, lots and lots of content on the internet. But I just grabbed a few things just to give you an idea. Poor Taylor Swift. Okay, poor Taylor Swift. I know she's a bazillionaire, but she has been the target of several of these deep fakes, even portraying her in pornographic type images. So much though that in BC they introduced a new protection act based on trying to protect people from these deep fake images. There was a guy in Texas that took Joe Biden's voice, put it into AI, and created his own message using the likeness of Joe Biden's voice. I've heard this, and it sounds exactly like Joe Biden. This happened earlier in the year during the primary elections, and basically this guy used a robo phone dialer to dial people to deliver this message to thousands and thousands of people. And the message basically said, "Hey, it's Joe Biden. I wanted to thank you so much for your support. By the way, don't worry about going to this primary election. It's not important. Stay home. Don't worry about it. When I really need you is in November. For now, forget about this one. We're all good. Thanks again." Obviously, the guy was traced and caught, but very, very realistic. I also came across this. Speaking of, the election and election manipulation, somebody at UC Berkeley created a web page just dedicated to deep fakes and all these examples of deep fakes used to try and manipulate information and propaganda and whatnot for this upcoming election. And I have to say, it's a pretty long website.
Do you guys have any examples of how deepfake could be used against the people on this webinar? Like how this technology can be leveraged to trick them into something?
I mean, it's the same as literally like this conversation we're having right now. Like I gave you the example. I mean, instead of me having this conversation pretending to be Tyler, it could be the firm's partner. They've grabbed enough video of that partner to train the AI engine to look at their facial expressions. If I am smiling right now, that person, if they've ever smiled anywhere in any kind of event, AI learns from that, right? Their facial expression. If my face, goes a little to the left, how does their face look like when it goes to a little to the, a smile to the left, smile to the right, head turning and stuff like that's essentially wireframe technology. They know how a human moves. That AI already knows that. It's just about painting a picture. So yeah, literally, if the partner of the firm starts a video chat with you, it may not be your partner. You need specific controls. You need to make sure that you don't just allow calls from anywhere into Teams or Zoom, because Teams at the moment sees it as a feature where anybody with your email address can start calling you. This should be disabled. Anybody in your organization needs to be inside your organization. You can't have other people just contacting you. You should restrict that. It doesn't mean that you can't have Teams meetings with external people anymore. It just means that nobody can initiate a call from outside and pretend to be somebody else. So, yeah, it's not safe anymore. Just having a call isn't great. You're gonna have an interview with this awesome person who has all the answers, but when you meet them, they have no idea how, what the law is or how to code anything, where they were throwing out, references or case numbers with exact dates, and they don't know that. So even the interview process has become so difficult, especially with this remote work. You should always, get an opportunity to at least meet that person once, especially if it's a new person.
Yeah. Definitely good advice there, Rishwan. So I'll say a close relative to deep fakes is this trend. utilizing AI-driven malware. So one of the premises that's being used is using AI to generate legitimate like training content that's posted onto YouTube. So you can go to ChatGPT and any AI-driven engine and ask it to write you a tutorial on how to do something specific. In this example here, utilizing something within Adobe, how to do something within Adobe Photoshop. You can create an AI-driven image of a person that's delivering the content. Their mouths will move and whatnot if you feed in the content to an AI-driven video engine, and it'll create a legitimate training tutorial in video that somebody can watch. Now, the catch here is that these cyber criminals are adding one more little piece into it. They're adding a free download of expensive software. You know, Adobe Photoshop is very expensive. Maybe they're offering, hey, a free 30 or 60 or 1 year subscription or something like that. And you're like, wow, this is great. You click to download it. It asks for your credentials. Now they phished your credentials that they are going to use against you. Or the download could be malware that's going to go onto your system. You're not even going to realize it. Your system may or may not detect it. Anyways, just also something to be cautious about. Doesn't matter how legitimate the source is, you always have to question any link or any download.
Yeah,
QR code.
Some trusting through credibility and letting your guard down, right? Because you believe it's legitimate content that you're engaging with, and then a link to go somewhere, and you're not suspicious at that point, and get tricked into providing information that they use to hack into you, or build more intel on how to hack into you.
Exactly. Here's another example of, you know, the potential to let your guard down. If you've ever been to a trade show, you know, every booth is going to have a QR code. You know, every vendor wants you to click their QR code. Maybe it's to enter a draw, or maybe it's just to find out more information or whatnot. But, you know, a lot of us are doing this, you know, scanning QR codes using, what do we use? We use our phone. And a little link comes up when you use your phone to scan it, and the text is very, very small. So we just take for granted that, you know, we're clicking on a QR code, we're standing right in front of the booth, this is all legit, right? So we just click next and go to wherever it is. But now I think cyber criminals are potentially preying on that. The fact that people, you know, when they see a QR code, they think, oh, this is okay, I've done that 100 times, just click on it. But you have to just watch now, because further than that, some QR codes, some of them might just lead to a website. It might be a malicious website, might be trying to scrape your credentials, or that website might also lead to a download. And again, always have to be extremely cautious at any time. If you're going to click on a download link, you absolutely have to know that it's coming from the right source.
Or credit card fraud, right? Taking credit card credentials, parking lots where you scan the QR code to pay. The thieves put stickers on top of the original QR codes, put theirs that lead you to a website to collect payment information, and you're putting in your credit card information to the scammer's website, and now they have access to authorized charges on your card.
Exactly. Again, it's always being vigilant. So the last example of trends that I wanted to show you, it's absolutely, so this is the Mamba two-factor authentication bypass. And the means of bypassing two-factor authentication isn't brand new. And I will say to everybody, just because you have multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication, again, it's still not 100% foolproof. There have been ways in the past. This new trend is just the fact that there's a new, you know, service for cyber criminals that has this whole kind of campaign in a box. It helps them with the phishing campaign. Now, two-factor authentication is still absolutely necessary everywhere. And unless you're manipulated in some other way, phished, or you're on a fictitious website, that's basically what they're doing, is tricking you into going to a fictitious website that, let's say, a big target is, Microsoft 365 accounts. So it's tricking you into going to a website that looks like a Microsoft 365 login. It looks like the typical Microsoft login. However, it's a fictitious website that's controlled by the cyber criminal. And as you're typing in your credentials on this fictitious web page, the cyber criminal sees what you're typing in, opens up the legitimate Microsoft 365 page, and he types in what you're typing. Same thing with your password. He types that in. What happens when you have to go for two-factor authentication? A code gets sent to you. And you are now going to enter that code into the fictitious website. The cyber criminal sees that. He enters that code in. Now he has full access into your Microsoft 365 account. That's exactly how it works. But what's been happening now is this Mamba is basically a cyber, it's almost like a service in a box that assists the cyber criminals in getting access and making it much easier for them to accomplish this. So just one other thing to be vigilant about. So one of the things we wanted to go through today, as we mentioned, we hear a lot of misinformation, and just wanted to go over, we've just listed here 12 myths that we've seen. The first one, we're only worried about external cyber threats. So internal cyber threats, come in two ways. Either, a disgruntled employee that, wants to do something malicious. That's generally a smaller percentage of what we see. But the bigger thing here is, internal employees that are just acting in ways where they don't know any better, or maybe they haven't had enough training. That's why every cyber insurance carrier and every cyber insurance policy requires cyber insurance, cyber awareness training. So making sure that you do have a cyber awareness training program for your people, that you test them regularly, is very, very important.
Mike, I just want to add to this thing. It is an extension of this myth. It's really exactly where this myth came from. I think it's a lot of it has to do with Hollywood and how they have portrayed hackers as this person who sits on a computer, has got this little screen that they type a whole bunch of code into, and then they are able to break into people's data systems or their computers or their emails. It's in the high 80s, the percentage that what was hacked wasn't a physical firewall, it was a human firewall. When I say human firewall, I mean the person themselves. They were the target. They were what was hacked. That is what the hacker was trying to hack, was the person, be it a phishing email, like you said, be it a phone call that they, called them and got them to do an SMS message, something that they, should not have clicked on, a deepfake call. It's in the high 80s to even 90%. Even the big hacks that you see on TV, those were not as sophisticated as people think they are. It was one human who made a mistake they shouldn't have made, right? They were not careful because everything, either they didn't realize it, and they didn't have enough training, like you said, or they just trusted too much. They just let their guard down, thinking that, oh, this is because it is the CEO or the law firm partner, I should get on this, rather than trying to verify that this is the right person asking me to do something weird that I've never done before.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, let's move on. Myth number 2. You hear this all the time. My law firm is too small to be a target. Let me just say for the record here, cyber criminals, they don't care. Now, there's some, big fish hunters that are out there in the cybercrime world that are only targeting very, very large. They're looking for very, very big paydays. However, there's an equal amount of cyber criminals out there that have realized, hey, that's a lot of work to go after big fish. You could spend a lot of time and a lot of resources and come up with nothing. It's almost like, any kind of business principle. And many of them have figured out, what? The smaller ones kind of have this thought, hey, I'm probably too small. No one's going to come after me. So maybe I don't have to worry so much about, getting fished or whatnot. But The truth is that, cyber criminals, there's many of them happy to make small amounts and just make it more often.
Yeah, and usually it's how much effort the hackers are willing to spend and time put in to be able to hack into different size firms. They'll put in a lot less time to get into a smaller firm because the reward is probably less than hacking into a big one. But if they can easily hack into smaller firms and do more of those, they'll go for that and they'll start there. And the harder you make it for them, the more likely they are to move on to the next firm and try to hack in there. And when they're trying to hack into a larger firm, they may spend 6, 9, 12 months working on that because they know the payoff is worth that effort. So every firm is really a target, and a lot of it comes down to how well protected you are and how much effort they're willing to put in to try to hack into you.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to pause for a moment. Like, we've got some questions coming in that I don't want to move past the content without answering them. So,
Yeah.
Rizwan, maybe this is a good one for you. What steps should be taken immediately if a firm suspects an AI-driven attack has occurred?
So an AI-driven attack or a human-driven attack, the response needs to be the same. You need to lock the hacker out immediately. You need to do some forensics to figure out exactly what it is that you are actually, what has been compromised, or did you catch it in enough time that nothing is there? Still, you should take inventory of what potentially could have been accessed, if it's like personally identifiable information, anything down the line that somebody could, take you to court in the future, should you be the reason that they lost their personal information. And if it was used for anything else, whether they took that personal information and got a whole bunch of credit cards, or they used that information to go and hack somebody else, it's always good to take inventory. Doesn't just because they didn't get anything from you does not mean that the information they collected isn't useful to them some other means. Most of the criminals, like you said, like the slide in front of the small ones, usually don't try to play the long con with the smaller companies. It's essentially just find the person who can give me some money and move on, because they don't have the resources. It's just too expensive for them to continue to try to fool a customer that's just not getting fooled. But at the same time, saying that because it's AI, it is affecting my systems differently, that's not true. I think the next question is something to do with cyber insurance.
Right.
For the most part, when it comes to cyber insurance, it's all about due care. Did you do enough to protect the company? Do you have a mechanism for verifying information? If like the partner deepfake call, do you have a mechanism to contact the partner yourself and verify that, yes, I am sending this transfer now. Are you good with this? Because this is not the bank account of this client that we sent. Or if it's a sophisticated email that has all the right material in it, do you have a mechanism for verifying that the information there is correct before releasing payment? That's what you need to show. If you have written policies, if you have everything that covers, and still a human messed up, that's where the insurance will help you. If you do not have any policies, you do not have any trainings, this happened and it's like insurance company pay me out, that's where you will have challenges. You just need to show them that you do have a process, you took due care, and this unfortunate sad thing happened. Insurance is understanding. Where it's like you had nothing and you're just expecting them to pay out, insurance is more and more pushing back now. So you do need to show them that you are doing these trainings, you do have written policies on how to deal with these situations, you do have tools in place, you do have scanning, you have some sort of monitoring for your logins, where they're coming from, you have some geo-blocking. All that is something that you can show the insurance company that, yes, we took due care. It still happened. That's when they cooperate with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really important to understand, what you're answering on one of the cyber insurance applications and making sure that you do comply with that. Because if you answer yes to things that you don't have in place and an attack happens, I mean, right away they're going to deny that claim. So much better to say you don't have something in place and then work with getting it in place, work with the insurer to get that in place and make sure you have it prior to accepting coverage, because they will look to make sure that everything you answered on that application is accurate and live in place.
Any
The next
others?
question, simple answer is yes, we can do that for.
Yeah, another question came in just about working with law firms to put a training plan in place for the staff, testing with email scans. So yes, reach out to us if you're interested in that. There's also ongoing, sometimes in person, augmented with online training is really good. So an in-person training session and then quarterly online training programs, and then simulated phishing testing throughout the year to test people, not announce it to the firm, but send out simulated phishing campaigns and see who interacts with it. People that click on it then get identified. They require more training and continue to do that throughout.
I think a myth I want to talk about that, Tyler, what you just said. It's a good one here. We have had, I mean, me specifically, have had a lot of people come to me and say, "Hey, this is too much work for our people. They don't like getting emails. They get too many emails. They don't want to interact with them." Like, I position it this way: if they stop interacting with an email thinking, "Oh, this is another phishing campaign," and then they're going to call me out on it, I don't want to interact with it, job done. That's exactly what we're trying to achieve. If they think this is another simulation and this is a headache, why the hell am I getting this? If it is an actual hacker email and they don't interact with it because they think it's a phishing simulation, job done. The idea is to make them not click on it, right? So if they're thinking it's just a test and I'm going to fail this test and somebody's going to call me on it, that is a very successful phishing campaign, in my opinion. And people need to understand that and position it that way to the senior partners.
Okay. Should I keep going? And
Yeah, keep going. Got a couple more. We'll save them for a little further on.
yes. Okay. So yeah, moving on, antivirus software or any tool in particular is going to be enough. I mean, certainly, Rishwan, you could probably speak to this. I mean, cybersecurity has to be a multi-layered approach. There is no one tool that is going to stop and or protect you.
No, absolutely. It's like, so there are, like you said, many layers like you described. There is a email, there's a scan of emails. There is, if the malware makes it onto your computer, then there's a scan and there's some protection on the computer level itself. On the servers, if you're sharing documents, stuff like that, it needs to be multi-layered. There is no one solution that checks all the boxes right now. If you have in-house infrastructure, there's a different level of security. If you have cloud infrastructure, there's a different level of security you need. So it is multi-layered like that, right? You don't typically have to worry so much about brute forcing. If you are an on-prem client, you can lock an account immediately, whereas in the cloud, you can't do that because accounts are being constantly brute forced. So if you put in a lockout policy for, let's say, 15 attempts, it takes a tool less than 1 second to go through 15 attempts. So
yeah,
if you unlock an account, less than a second later, it'll be locked again. So you will essentially be locked out of your account till forever. So there you need more layers to figure out where the connection is coming from, what it's trying to do. If you work out of Canada, there should never be a connection coming in from South Korea, for example. Stuff like that needs to be at that layer. If it is internal, then it has to have that level of lockout policies. We should also not forget the technological controls. There also needs to be policy controls where you are setting guidelines for your users, your staff, your VIP users on how to interact with technology. That needs to be clear. That is something should, God forbid you have a breach, you can show to your cyber insurance that we do have a clear policy that states the employee should not have done this, but they went ahead and did this anyway. It's not your fault at that time. You have taken due care.
Really multi-layered from both the tool perspective, the hygiene perspective, and the policy and procedures. I mean, there's no silver bullet to this, right? So just kind of
100%.
that it's the right tools across the right platforms, the right hygiene, making sure systems have all the up-to-date security updates, patching done on them, firewall hardening, and then policies and procedures, training. All of those things are crucial to the security posture of your firm.
Yep, 100%. All right, I'm going to keep moving. This is an obvious one. Phishing scams are obvious and easy to spot, not so much anymore. And as we've given you some examples of how cyber criminals are leveraging AI, it's getting harder and harder to spot. So again, being very, very vigilant there. Number 5, more tools mean better cybersecurity. Yes, you need a multi-layered approach, and you definitely need more than just the one tool. However, just because you have more tools still doesn't mean that you're 100% secure. I think that's a knee-jerk reaction, especially if somebody has been phished or has some sort of cyber breach. Hey, we just need more tools. Throw more tools at it. And tools are great, but as Tyler just mentioned, the hygiene around tools, how are they set up? How are they configured? Is anybody checking these things? Settings and configurations is super important and overlooked. You 100% cannot take a set it and forget it approach to security. We see that a lot in our industry. People just want to sell you security tools, slap it into your systems, make you feel better, but no one's actually looking at those tools and managing them.
Yeah. Continuous hardening of all your IT systems in alignment to best practice. I mean, that's just a crucial piece outside of the tools.
Yeah. And number 6, cybersecurity is IT's responsibility. You know what? You can't just place it all on IT. IT is going to do whatever they can, but all the individuals, this is a group effort. All individuals need to be involved. As we see in a lot of cases with social engineering, it's individuals that end up getting compromised. So everybody has to play their part, and everybody has to be vigilant when it comes to cybersecurity.
Yeah, and this ties into really building a culture of cyber security awareness throughout the firm. We say, IT's primary job responsibility in this is to identify where there's risks and risk mitigation, risk reduction strategies. There's always going to be some risk. It's just how much risk is a firm willing to assume, and what are the costs to reduce or mitigate that risk? And it's always that balancing act. So much of it comes down to making sure you're aware, even in an unlikely risk, that you're aware of it. And that's not going to keep you up at night because you know that the cost is really high to protect against it. And it's very unlikely or not willing to accept that risk. So it is a joint responsibility in making sure that people adhere to policies and procedures, that you're continuously working to harden the environment, and it's on the forefront of everybody's minds. You question everything that comes in really before clicking and interacting with it.
Yeah. Myth number 7, we see it a lot in sometimes in smaller firms. Hey, we don't need outside help with cybersecurity. I know how to install antivirus and whatever. Maybe I can set up the internet router. Yeah, but this is definitely an area where cyber criminals can exploit, again, the process, procedure, settings, configuration. Individuals want to manage their Microsoft 365 account, and an individual with a little bit of knowledge can probably set it up, but can they secure it? Can they configure it properly? Can they protect their firm? That comes with with lots of training and know-how in exactly how things work and exactly how to secure a firm. So number 8, we're in the cloud. We hear this all the time. I mean, literally, you're only as safe as the cloud resources. Even as an example, well, we've seen examples even in this industry of, private clouds being breached. Just because you're in someone's private cloud, you are subject to the means and process, procedure, and security that provider has put into their own cloud. And we've seen instances where private cloud providers have been breached. I mean, we have a strategy ourselves to start leveraging Microsoft Azure more. Microsoft spends billions of dollars securing Microsoft Azure, the perimeter defenses and whatnot. However, even with that billions and billions of dollars spent, once we set up a Microsoft server within that environment, it's still subject to the security means that we put in place on that virtual server that we're renting from Microsoft. And with social engineering and phishing and whatnot, none of that, Microsoft isn't going to stop that stuff. It's all going to be up to us, whoever is providing the security for that server. So can't just rest on the laurels that you're in the cloud. Doesn't 100% mean that you're totally safe. Number 9, changing passwords frequently is enough. I mean, we've gone over this before. We went over this in length in our last webinar, just talking about the fact that your passwords, I know it's a pain having to keep, passwords with, uppercase, lowercase numbers, symbols, and things like that, and making them longer. Yes, it's harder to remember. We're all going through that fatigue with passwords and how many passwords we have to remember. God forbid we're writing them down on pieces of paper and things like that. But you definitely need to change the passwords 100%. We're not saying to stop doing that. We're just saying that there's a lot more to it. They need to have complexity and whatnot. Number 10, cybersecurity is too expensive. I think with any, once, firms and businesses are looking at cybersecurity and a strategy, you really have to start with, well, what are you trying to protect? Do you have any particular information? What would a breach cost? That's another way of looking at it. What would it cost your firm if you did get breached? Whether that's in reputation, whether that's in money that could be exfiltrated or whatnot. And cybersecurity starts sounding very reasonable. And cybersecurity is a one-time investment. As we say with most things IT related, cybersecurity is definitely not set in and forget it. You also, we see the strategy with a lot of firms that they say, oh, all I need is just an audit to see where I'm at right now and if I'm secure. Sure, an audit and a vulnerability assessment is a great idea. It'll give you a one point in time look at where you're at. It'll help you shore up some things, maybe close up some gaps and holes. The problem with IT is, as much as it's organic and bits and bytes and whatnot, it is always moving, always changing. As you add users, take users away, as you install software, remove software, even as you update software, everything is starting to change within a network. So that's why you have to have a constant approach. Someone needs to be looking. It's kind of about the security hygiene that we talk about. A process needs to be in place where you're constantly looking at things, constantly measuring exactly where you're at, looking for loopholes, and closing things up.
And doing something is better than nothing. We often see people that are overwhelmed by this and a little bit of paralysis from analysis and just saying, oh, I don't know what to do. We're going to hold off on everything and not put anything towards cybersecurity. Having a comprehensive plan is the best, and having an ongoing plan is the best, but don't not do anything as a result of being overwhelmed by it. At least get started and start doing something towards the protection of your firm.
Exactly. And then the last myth, compliance equals security. So in a lot of ways, we see this when cyber insurance started coming up with compliance requirements in order to qualify for cyber insurance. Granted, they are extremely basic. They're just asking, do you have, an antivirus tool in place? Are you doing cyber awareness training? Basically asking questions, and you can say, oh, I tick all these boxes. That means I'm secure, right? Well, there's a whole lot more to it. I mean, cyber insurance is only asking for the bare minimums because they're just trying to cover off on the majority of what might lead to a breach. But there's a whole lot more behind that.
Well, and it's adhering to what you've done in your compliance checks. We see firms that have gone through, they have their clients have heavy compliance requirements on them, and they, get a pass. They have all the policies, procedures written down, everything in place, but they don't abide by it and follow it. So yeah, you're good on paper. You've got a pass from the client, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily secure because you're not following it.
So we're coming up against the end of time, but there's a couple things we wanted to go through quickly. Maybe Tyler, you could run through these quickly.
Yeah, we talk about stacking different layers of things. I mean, these are some of the core components that are important to that stack. Managed DDR, XDR, this is a much more advanced, modern version of antivirus that uses machine learning, AI to help protect against threats. We talked about security awareness training, testing. That needs to be an ongoing process. It especially needs to be ongoing because the threat landscape continues to change. So teaching your people how to identify current threats. AI is a great one here that we've touched on because it's really evolving quickly, and knowing even more what to look for. Vulnerability assessments, pen testing of your environment. This is where, somebody scans through the environment, looks for where there's potential vulnerabilities, ways to hack into your system. And from there, you put together a remediation plan. Again, that needs to be an ongoing exercise. If you're storing data on laptops, encrypting laptops, normally not best practice to store data on laptops, but if people are having that encrypted as a layer of protection there if the laptop gets lost or stolen. MFA with code verification, in addition to push approval. We touched a lot on that MFA and ways it's being hacked now. Geo-filtering, geo-blocking, understand where it is people are accessing your systems from. If everybody works out of Canada, it does not make sense to have access to your systems from outside of Canada. The downside of this is you need to have a policy procedure in place. So when people are traveling, that restriction temporarily gets locked. But this is one of the best ways to protect your system. Most hacks do come from outside Canada and the US. So if you're locking down access to other regions, that's a great layer of protection. And then a SOC is really a monitoring for all of your systems, and it logs everything so that if attempts are being made, somebody's trying to infiltrate your environment, that should be generating alerts that get responded to, and then the SIEM is logging all of that data so that if something does happen, all of the forensics are there to go back to and understand how that breach occurred or how that attempted breach occurred.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. Okay, and we're just about at the end of it. So I'm going to suggest that maybe the 10 steps for building a cyber team. We actually have a giveaway that we can send out to people if you just shoot us an email. I'm going to show you the email in a second, but I mean, these are many of these very obvious steps: training your team, encouraging open communication, leading by example. Like, it comes up occasionally where one person in the organization, hates two-factor authentication, so they want to be omitted. You need to lead, especially if you're a leader, owner of the organization, you need to lead by example. Establishing clear guidelines, recognizing your team with good practices, trying to make it personal and get everyone involved, testing your team's readiness regularly with awareness training, and also simulating those phishing campaigns. Encouraging employees to speak up when they see something or see somebody not adhering to the rules, and helping each employee own their own role in cybersecurity, and then uniting your team. Again, making it a complete team effort and shared responsibility. So We do have a one pager that we can send to you if you wanted a copy of
You're
that.
only as strong as your weakest link. So very important that
Yeah.
everybody complies and abides by the
Just
standard.
a couple. Yeah, just a couple of resources. I always use the government's cyber website, cyber.gc.ca. I just think it's impartial information. If you go and do searches, you'll find a lot of self-serving, vendors that are trying to sell you software. The government isn't trying to do that. And then, of course, our own website as well for information. So I know there was a couple of other questions, and I'm just going to leave this screen up here with our email if somebody wants.
One more here, just can AI create legal risks when processing large volumes of electronic documents?
I think we need a bit more clarity on that. AI does create risk, whether it's a large document or a small document. It's, I think probably the context is not really clear in that question, but in terms of, whether it's malware that's part of that document, whether it's, AI's ability to read the documents, a case study, like any client that comes to us and say, hey, we want to start Copilot. One thing we say that yes, Copilot is better than ChatGPT in the fact that any information that you give to ChatGPT is available in the public. Say, for example, as a law firm, you are working on a merger for a client. You put that document into ChatGPT and say, hey, just help me fix this document, put some code or anything. ChatGPT now knows about this merger. Somebody just has to ask it the right questions to find out, what kind of deal is happening with this so-and-so company. And all of a sudden, because AI had this document that the law firm uploaded, or an intern, usually that's your biggest risk. They uploaded it to make it seem like really nice and well formatted. That is over on the internet. Whereas that risk still exists inside Copilot, but Copilot, it's more secure. It's more inside your document. Nobody from the outside has access to it, but Copilot has access to everything you have access. So if your security isn't locked down, if the permissions aren't locked down, so for example, that intern that I was talking about has the same permissions to your SharePoint as the law firm owner or the partner, that intern can type in a query and say, hey, what is the next bonus going to be? And if some partner has uploaded a document somewhere that has everybody's bonuses, it's in a folder under a folder under a folder where human could take, weeks to look for. Copilot can find it in under 10 seconds. So that, the AI is now, even the good AI that you or yourself are putting into you, this is not even hackers. This is your AI that you put in for your own benefit, is now worth being used against you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we really, AI is very powerful and should be adopted, but it just needs to be planned carefully and secured properly, and just understanding where the potential risks are to it, and either accepting or mitigating those risks.
Okay. Any other questions, Tyler?
That's it.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, if anybody wanted to have a conversation or had other questions, you can just reach out to us, inquiries@pacetechnical.com. It'll come to us. Or if you wanted to arrange a private consultation to ask some specific questions, or just get another opinion about what's being done today to secure your environment, we'd be happy to help there. All right. Yeah, well, thanks, Tyler and Rishwan, for joining us, and thanks to all of you for joining us today for this session, and hope everybody else has a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye now.